For much of antiquity, the expansion of an empire followed a specific pattern. New military borders brought forced conversions and the suppression of local religious practices. The rapid 7th century expansion of Islamic rule presents a departure from this historical precedent. It stands as a significant anomaly in the archival record. At the time, the Byzantine and Roman empires were enforcing strict religious monopolies. Minorities across these territories faced persistent persecution or total banishment from their holy sites. However, the manuscripts left by Jewish and Christian communities within these newly acquired territories tell a different story. These primary sources frequently frame the arrival of their new rulers as an act of liberation. To understand the nature of this era, we have to look past modern assumptions and examine the diaries, letters, and treaties written by the people who lived through the transition. We begin in the east, at the capture of major Byzantine centers like Damascus. Among the witnesses was John Bar Penkaye, a 7th century Christian monk who documented the arrival of the Muslim armies. Penkaye wrote that the new administration did not rely on brutal warfare. He specifically noted they followed a commandment from God to hold Christian monasteries in honor. This account aligns with official state documents, like the peace agreement drafted by Commander Khalid ibn al-Walid for Damascus. The treaty contains specific clauses guaranteeing the safety of the inhabitants, protecting their property, temples, and city walls. This consistency between a monk's private observations and a general's official legal dictates suggests that religious tolerance was a deliberate, integrated policy. In Jerusalem, the baseline was 5 centuries of exile. Under Roman law, Jewish people were officially barred from their holy city since the 2nd century. When Caliph ʿUmar's forces took the city, contemporary accounts note that they did not massacre the population or destroy existing religious monuments. The 9th century patriarch Theodosius confirmed this continuity of access, stating that the new rulers allowed Christians to build churches and maintain their customs without interference. On the Temple Mount, records describe the caliph and local Jewish citizens working together to clear away Roman-era refuse that accumulated at this central rock. The 10th century Jewish scholar Salman ben Yeruham documented that this shift in administration allowed Jewish families to officially return and settle in Jerusalem once again. The new administration effectively ended half a millennium of systemic religious exile, completely opening the gates of the city. Moving west to the Iberian Peninsula, the Visigothic kingdom and the Catholic Church held significant political and religious control over the region. In 633 CE, the Fourth Council of Toledo issued edicts that mandated the separation of Jewish children from their parents, intending to force their conversion to Catholicism within monasteries. When Muslim forces crossed the Strait of Gibraltar in 711, the local Jewish populations, facing these severe internal edicts, aided the incoming armies. Historians such as David Wasserstein and Zion Zohar argue that the arrival of Islam prevented the total disappearance of Jewish life in the region. This intervention led to the Golden Age of Spanish Jewry, a period where intellectual and cultural life flourished, eventually producing figures like the philosopher Maimonides. The transition from the threat of eradication to a state of cultural prosperity illustrates the tangible impact of the era's institutional tolerance. Why did the early Muslim administrations adopt these policies, which differed so sharply from the empires that preceded them? This policy of tolerance was rooted in specific legal requirements found in the early Islamic texts. These manuscripts contain a mandate, notably in chapter 4, verse 75 of the Quran, which commands believers to rescue oppressed men, women, and children. The modern clash of civilizations narrative often overlooks this documented historical record. When we examine the primary sources of the non-Muslims who lived through the 7th century, we find a recorded legacy of liberation and a shared cultural golden age.